What's up, guys? EJ Stewart here, back with another edition of our Young Justice episode recap and review. Today, we're going to be talking about the episode 24 of season 4, Zenith and Abyss. Boy, this episode certainly ratcheted up the intensity. We're getting very, very close to what will probably be the end up being the big conflict of this season. We now have the Phantom Zone prisoners freed from the Phantom Zone. We have our heroes in grave danger. We have some heroes stuck in the Phantom Zone. So, plenty to get to on this recap. I don't want to waste any more time. So, of course, I'm with you, joining us via remote, not on camera, but you will have his audio throughout the entire time. Will be Shamari as well. Sham, big time episode, man. Big time episode. Wondering what your thoughts were. We're in for a pretty great ride, I think, for these next two.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this was a great episode, in my opinion. Um, and it's kind of where you kind of thought things would lead, especially considering how the previous episodes were going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, you kind of saw, okay, yeah, so Superboy's head is all messed up. If and whenever he leaves, he's not gonna be the same guy. You know,
Right.
um, and yeah, I mean there were a lot of twists, even the things with the um, I forget that little
The
device that ended
the
up
Ki-
being
the, Ki-
important.
the Kaiser-Thrall.
Yeah, the Kaiser-Thrall, and seeing how that actually is a person, and how he was kind of being manipulated and everything. It's crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. So I was very impressed with this episode. It's very good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought with the Kaiser Thrall, tying in kind of last season's overarching story with the trafficking, and to me,
Hmm.
like that was your way of really kind of bringing that home as to what were the ramifications of the trafficking that was going on, and we see there, Danny Chase, who is a DC character, he's a character from the Teen Titans, very different in terms of personality than the Danny Chase that was introduced in the comic books. This kid, very sweet, very nice, not like the kid in the comic books, but seeing just the ramifications and the kind of just sadness that comes with what happens when people are being trafficked, and just kind of really added to the depth of the evil of Apocalypse and of Darkseid. Of course, he talked about how he was being manipulated, or not manipulated, rather. He was being tested on by Desaad. If there was any doubt about how sick the side of things will be, that certainly was our introduction to that. But we'll get to all that stuff from this episode. I want to begin with what was, I thought, a very kind of what is going on start to this episode. Because we see Oa for the first time, which is kind of cool that to see Oa. We knew that Lorzad was taking the Legion to Oa because that's where the Kaiser-Thrall was, and he's introduced to this guy. Um, and I was very confused. I don't know if you were confused. I was confused because, as you guys know, we talked about it a couple episodes back. Tomar Ray was killed by Lorzad. So when I saw this interaction happening, I was very confused. I actually had to rewind back and look and see, is this a previous episode, or is this a not a previous episode, but is this like a flashback? Like what exactly is going on? Like this character is not alive. But as the conversation moved on, we learned that this was actually Tomar 2, who is Tomar Ray's son, who also became a Green Lantern. And, basically, Lord Zod's there. He's trying to learn about the whereabouts of the Kaiser-Thrall. And, Tomar 2, who's clearly a very new Green Lantern, he's working the front desk of the prison security system. And they have this exchange, and Kilowatt kind of looks at him like this guy seems a little off. But, no one knows that, of course, this is the man that killed Tomar Ray. What did you think of just how the scene opened? First of all, you want to talk about really, really making us hate Lorzad. I mean, this scene was very difficult. I was like, man, this dude is just a jackass. Like, like man, like that definitely did a good job of convincing us that this dude is a pure heel. What did you make of that introduction to this episode?
Yeah, it was a crazy introduction. I was like you, I was very confused. I mean, I thought that was Shamari. I was like, okay, so initially I was like, okay, so what time are we in?
Right.
You know, because I was like, there has to be some kind of time hijinks going on here. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a crazy, definitely a crazy, a crazy start to the episode. Um, and we see he's still kind of going after the Kaizer-Thrall and all that. So yeah, definitely a heel moment there.
Yeah, no question, a heel moment for Lord Zod, and definitely didn't need much convincing for us to continue to see this man for who he is. And that was kind of a great open. Then the episode took us 2 days into the future, and then again in that conversation, he was trying to figure out details about the Kaiser-Thrall. All he was able to learn was that it was sent to Earth, which we now know because a lot of this episode, the Kaiser-Thrall is in the possession of the Justice League. Forager has brought Green Lantern Forager has brought the Kaiser-Thrall to the Justice League, trying to explain what is going on with this thing and the fact that it is indeed a human. But before we get to any of that stuff, we gotta talk about what happened on the Phantom Zone. So the team, Zatanna, Artemis, Aquaman, of course our guy Nightwing, and Rocket, they are all in the Phantom Zone trying to get Connor out. They seem to have a pretty simple plan. They initially say, "Hey, we got to be careful. We can't just run up on him because we don't know who these other people are and what kind of state he's in. But when he's alone, we can convince him to go, and this will be easy peasy." Sure enough, it was not easy at all. Connor does recognize him, and it brings some of these memories he has of Dick. Certainly bring back some of his memories of the team being with McGann. And again, kind of sad stuff to see. He kind of we see this really cool thing of this flashback of the team, the OG team, taking that picture that we've seen so many times. And this is like one of the few times we actually got to see how that picture got taken. And it was really touching to see, but sad also to see that this was a they're so far gone from that moment, and how dark things have gotten now because of the situation that they're in. But Connor is not a willing participant again. He gets confused, and then sure enough, Zod and the crew pull up and say, "No, no, no, you're not leaving with Connor without telling us how to get out of here." And that also leads to us learning more of Zod's plan. Like once Zod, he says in these statements that because especially what happened with Phantom Girl, we now knew that there will be another attempt to get this kid out of here. Between Phantom Zone, between Phantom Girl, between seeing the projector from several episodes prior, that their plan was essentially to keep this guy close to the vest because they knew that this guy was going to be someone who was worthy, who was worth something to somebody, and that they would eventually help him. And that leads to the fight scene that we get on the Phantom Zone, where the team, for the most part, gets their behind kicked by House Zod, which shouldn't be that much of a surprise. It's not like House Zod necessarily has Kryptonian powers, but they are more familiar with being in the Phantom Zone. Aquaman was smart to try to tell the team to stop using their weapons and just use hand-to-hand combat, and for Zatanna to just use her magic on the actual combatants and not just trying to move things around in the Phantom Zone. But nonetheless, they get watched fairly quickly, and they're all trapped. Shamari, how did you feel about how this aspect of the episode played out?
I thought it played out really well. I mean, like you said, it made sense that the Zods were able to kind of beat the you know the the Young Justice team in combat,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, like you said, it's kind of sad to see Connor so far gone. I mean, I kind of wish seeing these scenes in particular
Yeah.
kind of makes me wish that they maybe spent a little more time on how the Connor brainwashing happened. Seeing
Right.
him quite this far gone is a little, and it's hard to whenever you deal with the Phantom Zone, it's hard to just show the time progression.
Right.
I'm assuming he's been in there forever,
Right.
basically.
And we know he's been there since April because that's when he, quote unquote, died.
Right.
And they do a good job with
Well,
the timestamps of,
yeah, they
but
try with timestamps,
yeah,
but it's like, it's kind of just like, I mean, it's hard to, I mean, do they sleep? I guess not, right? So it's like, so maybe that helps with brainwashing. I don't know. I feel like they could probably, I feel like that because we only just see a couple episodes, and so it's just like for him to be this far gone, it's just hard to, you know, it's kind of hard to imagine. Um, but I don't know. Again, we've seen him programmed before,
yeah, sure.
kind of prone to this
And
kind of influence. So I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely something sad to see.
I liked again how they went back a little bit to that programming part of Connor's past, like when he
Right.
when he gets encounters Aquaman says, "Hey man, like snap out of it, like we're here to help you," and they brought him back to being in Cadmus, and we forget that
Yep.
that Calder was the first person to say, "Yo man, chill, we're trying to help you." And then of course, like I said before, we go back to the photo with the whole team. Yeah, it was sad to see. But while we do say he is very far gone, he's also very confused because like there are moments where he kind of doesn't fight them, he doesn't know what to do, and Zod can consistently try to tell him, "Yo man, like you work with us, fight with us." And I was actually a little surprised Zod took him in out of there when they all left. I thought that Conrad proved to be too unreliable because he could see the wrong person and lose his thoughts and everything. Um, but they do end up leaving with them when they figure everything out. I will touch on this real quickly only because I think it's noteworthy, and I will say I did like this episode, but this is not a Nightwing arc. Let's keep it a buck. I feel as a Nightwing fan, I feel a little cheated. Um, I love this episode, but like we can clearly see this is just the end of the season. And I feel
Mhm.
like really as the way the storytelling has been very consistent with really leading with these OG members of the OG Young Justice team from season one, having their perspectives lead us through these stories. It does feel like a slight letdown that this has just become just a free for all where we're full on dealing with the Justice League, full on dealing with everyone, and it should. I mean, we're only a couple episodes left, but is there any part of you that feels a little disappointed in that aspect of it, or is it so fire that it doesn't matter?
No, I mean, I'm not really bothered by that. I mean, I definitely
Right.
understand. For Nightwing fans, and it's probably a disappointment. Um, but I feel like the story has been wound so much that to put any kind of neat ball on it, you have to focus on everything that's going on. Like you can't have this be like a Nightwing story and tie all this together. Or I mean, maybe you can, but it would. I think it'd take a lot of work. You know,
Right.
um, or they'd have to like kind of like buff up Nightwing quite a bit to make him be able to resolve this whole conflict. You know, so um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like they tried a little bit in the beginning. They did the whole Haley circus and all like the first episode of the arc.
Yeah.
They definitely tried to have Nightwing kind of take the lead on the investigation of finding out what was going on with Superboy. But since
Right.
then, it's really just been just kind of just telling the story of what happened. And
Yeah.
I get, it's kind of has everybody in it. Rockets in it, of course. Zatanna's in it. Everybody's in it. McGann is back, so now they're
Yeah.
really getting to the finale, basically.
Yeah. And this
Uh,
feels like as close to like OG Young Justice as like anything this arc, which is why it's still outstanding.
mhm.
It just I thought for me it did just feel a little bit like a good deviation of how the stories have been told. Um,
Right.
I wasn't necessarily someone who disliked how the story was being told with the different arcs. Um, I thought it was gonna be weird how they would try to finish, the final arc with it being told from one person's perspective when you're trying to fit when you have a story that's so expansive. I think we're seeing maybe some of that balance, be essentially impossible, which is I think in some ways understandable from that regard. But I do think that was important to point out. That's the only reason why I did. So let's get to this whole deal with the Kaiser-Thrall. Because, as I said, Forager, Green Lantern, after we saw that post-credit scene a couple of days ago where they realized that there is a human inside the Kaiser-Thrall and the consciousness of the human is in there, they, of course, take it to the Justice League for further examination, which is where they bring McGann into the fold. And it is McGann who is able to then cyclically link with whatever entity is attached to this Kaiser-Thrall. And that's where we meet young Danny Chase. And like I said before, Danny Chase, if you're familiar with the Teen Titans comics, he was at some point a member of the Teen Titans. He was written as this very annoying, very arrogant character. He ended up lasting maybe 5 or 6 years before he was killed off from the DC universe, and he's really not been used much since. Here they kind of repurposed Danny as one of these kids that were being trafficked during the whole trafficking scheme that we saw play out in the past season. He explains a very dark story, not only with the trafficking side of it, but then him being sent to Darkseid and Desaad essentially taking his brain and putting it into this Kaiser-Thrall. It was really, it was very sad. Two, I thought also was, it kind of brought, it added to the sadness, but it also brought some like joy to see that this like young man had this terrible thing happen to him, but that he was still in good spirits. He was still very much willing to help the team, even though, as he said, the more he used his powers, the more it actually hurt him. They again a complete 180 from the character that most people were introduced to when they met Danny Chase in the comics. What did you think of this aspect of the episode and how they handled the Kaiser-Thrall? We talked a couple weeks ago about how we were so interested in learning. Maybe last week. It was last week. It would be the 2 episodes last week. We talked last week about wondering what the hell is going on with the Kaiser-Thrall, who will be attached to it. Now that you learned, what did you think?
I mean, I thought it was a sad story.
Yeah.
I kind of felt the same way. I'm not as familiar with the Danny Chase character, but it is good to know that they're still pulling characters from the DC universe, and even if they're repurposed, I think that's still very cool. But yeah, it's a sad story. Very sad story. But I think it adds more weight. It adds more kind of like a realistic kind of feel to the story, because you can see Darkseid doesn't care about anybody. Todd doesn't care about anybody. They're just trying to gain as much power as they can. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a sad story. I I was looking forward to seeing how they could help. So I mean, I guess that's still we saw. Obviously we were able to see that, but the story's still unfolding. So I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, we will have to see how that unfolds. And this, like I said, this conversation happens as Danny meets McGann, and they're able to cyclically link. And all of this kind of starts to converge all into one when we are also met by the Prince of Mars, Prince Gem, who comes back. We have not seen this dude in a very long time. But he's come back. He's like, "Yo, man, I got information that's very important." I'm like, "Yo, what's this guy doing here?" It just seemed like everything was converging a little at once. But then it made sense very quickly that he's like, "I have reason to believe Connor is alive," and we see during these scenes that like this stuff was happening, and McGann was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get in contact with like Dick and everybody now that we know that Connor may be alive, and I can't reach them, and now we know why, because they're in the Phantom Zone, getting beat down by outside." But he comes in with Phantom Girl and says, "This girl tells me that she's been with Connor. He's in this place called the Phantom Zone," and they have there's this very interesting kind of what's the word? Kind of like this game being played with the team and with Phantom Girl and with Superman, because Superman knows the Legion and he knows the timeline is important, so he can't say some things. But he's saying, "I have reason to believe this girl." Very fascinating conversation, seeing how all these different parts played into it. thoughts on this aspect of the episode?
I thought it was interesting. I was shocked to see him as well.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what? All right, wow, all right. So we're going. So Mars is right back in the story, huh? You know, so that's I was not
Yeah,
expecting
and it
that.
made sense because that's where Phantom
Yeah,
Girl was
yeah,
left.
exactly. That's where she was left. That's where she
Yeah.
last was. So it did make sense. Um, and once I saw McGann, for me the thing was seeing McGann, and I'm like, all right, so now we're gonna get. So now she's got to try to get Connor, and then she's gonna be all hurt that they didn't tell her.
Right.
That's the next thing I'm like, all right, so when is she gonna get hurt that they didn't tell her that they have a way to bring him back, and blah 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 blah
No,
blah.
but so you are convinced that that is going to be a thing, that them not including McGann in the plan to rescue Connor is going to be a problem,
Oh yeah,
regardless of
definitely.
what happens.
I don't
Okay.
know how big of a problem. We'll see. I feel like we'll find out how big of a problem. It's gonna be an issue, but I don't know if she's gonna be like, oh, I hate you guys, or
Right.
I don't know if I could ever trust you again or anything like that, or if she'll be like, why would you do that? Blah blah blah. But she'll just be so overwhelmed by the fact that Connor's back or whatever that she's willing to forgive and forget. I don't know, but that's definitely going to be a problem, for sure. Especially since that's like her basically almost her whole OG team, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So it's like the fact that they will all not tell her that they have a way to get this guy back. I mean, that is that I feel like that's definitely going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think when you watch this show, you grow to love these characters and love this group, love this team. So, for the sake of the team and loving these guys, I hope that it doesn't become a beef and that McGann is able to see past it and understand where everybody was coming from. But I totally get where you're coming from, Sham. That like you would think that this is probably gonna end up being a problem at some point, considering once McGann like any kind of convincing of McGann in terms of trying to get her on the same page, like it didn't take much. Like Phantom Girl said the story. He's like, "Yo, man, I all right, Superman, you trust this girl? Yeah, all right, then let's do it." Like there was no hesitation. There was no, oh, I don't know, do we trust this, or I don't know if this. I haven't been able to feel him, so I don't think this is true. Like she was pretty much on board immediately, and any kind of trepidation that Nightwing talked about how tough he could be and how it could crush her, like she didn't seem to have any care about that. So I do think
Hmm.
that was done also on purpose, and it will be interesting to see how they play this out. But during this meeting, again, Phantom Girl kind of tells her story, telling them what happened, telling them about her world, telling them about the Phantom Zone, and the struggles she's having getting. She doesn't think she can get back to the Phantom Zone. We see her try at one point with McGann. It does not work out very well. They end up going to her home world of Blitzskull, and that was actually interesting too. I don't know if you picked up Shan how she noticed how she said that her world should not look like that.
Yep.
Yeah, she was like, this time my world should be not like this. So this is very concerning. But anyway, let's just go back, and I'm like, okay, well that's not good, and I wonder if that will end up being. There's so much stuff that happens in these episodes, Sham, that just like they if you're not paying attention, they can be glossed over. But I get the feeling that like this is gonna be something that's gonna be
Yeah.
important, if not this
I mean,
season,
it
then
sounded
in
like
future
she said
seasons.
that. It sounded like she said that her world in her time is actually a metropolis, but that now, I mean, I guess she didn't know what it would look like now.
Hmm.
Um, but it sounded like she was saying that her in her time, her world is like a metropolis. So
Interesting.
so like she doesn't
So
know how it goes from this to that.
right, interesting.
You know.
That you very much could be right about that, and that is interesting. That if that's the case, that it was just hey, my world don't look like this in my time, so I don't know what was going on. When she said my time, I took it as just her timeline, but you could be right. She could be meaning that
Interesting.
literally. I think you're probably more right than I am. I think that she probably meant that more literally. That in her time period where she grew up, that this is not her world. So this does not work out well, but that's actually where Danny comes into play, and he says, "Look, like I have not only telekinesis, but I have this interdimensional ability that if I get the right power source with me, I could probably help y'all get to wherever you need to go. I just need the coordinates." And of course, Phantom Girl's like, everything I do is off feel. I'm not a coordinates person. Like, that's not gonna work for
Hmm.
me. They're like, well, what can work with a Kaiser-Thrall? What kind of technology can work with Kaiser-Thrall to get him to do this? And that's where Orion comes in. And Orion has a mother box, and with his ability to, with Danny's ability to communicate with mother boxes, they're able to get them to um, a red planet where they can actually open the Phantom Zone, just boom tube a Phantom Zone open, which again speaks to just the power of a mother box. We talk about all these difficulty in trying to get to in front of the Phantom Zone. If you get a mother box and a Kaiser-Thrall and someone as powerful as Danny, they could just open up a boom tube, and that made things very easy. And I really also enjoyed the thought process behind this. I enjoyed that it wasn't just let's just open them up and see what happens. Like the fact that Orion's like, yeah, we're gonna go to a planet with a red sun, so that if any dudes come out that are bad, like we can scrap these dudes and get them out of there really quickly. Like you could always enjoy Young Justice for the thought process behind everything, and I love the thought process behind this as well. So really liked the insertion. It's funny Superman to go there and be like, look, man, I'm not gonna be able to help y'all really. I'll be here, but it's more for just support. And
Hmm.
like what's the name said, like look, like we got like the Mars Prince, we got a Green Lantern, we got a New God. Like we should be able to scrap anybody that comes through here. That's a Kryptonian on the Red Sun. But because of the stuff happening with Lord Zod, we actually learned pretty quickly that this is not going to go as planned. So during that conversation, Sham, where they're trying to formulate this plan, Lord Zod's on the bioship with Mal Aleph Alak, and he knows that this Kaiser-Thrall has been sent to Earth, and he's trying to game plan kind of what their next move is. And he realizes, well, they got these rings, and they got to be a way to communicate through these rings. And if maybe I can communicate with them, we can figure out where the Justice League is taking the Kaiser-Thrall next. And that ends up leading to this kind of disastrous situation where they open up the Boon Tube, but because Mal Alafa'ak is able to, uh, you know, disguise himself as Chameleon Boy and get Phantom Girl to tell him exactly where they were. But before I even get into that, do you think that that was a little too? There were two moments in this episode I thought were maybe a little too. I don't know. Like I talk about how great they think about the stuff in Young Justice, but I thought that that moment, like there was no one on the Justice League or the Phantom Girl itself didn't think that. Oh wow, I haven't been able to communicate with anybody now. Like the team is just running around somewhere. Like there was no one like even thought like what's going on, or the fact that we know that Wally's been excuse me, I keep calling him Wally. Bart's been running around with some people who they at that point you would think they would try to surmise maybe these are the same people that Superman certainly would know that those are the people that he's with, that they're the Legion. Like that no one said, well wait a minute, like let's see what's going on before you just say what our location is. I did kind of wonder like that if that was a little too easy for Lord Zod. And then I also thought, I didn't mention it earlier, but Lord Zod like walking in and nobody knowing what the person that killed Tomar Ray looked like, I thought it was a little hard to believe. Considering he killed the Green Lantern, but but this second part though I thought was even more. I wasn't sure how I felt this part.
Um, yeah, I mean, I honestly, EJ, I agree with you on both counts.
Hmm.
Um, that first scene in the beginning, I was, when Kilowog was like, I was like, yeah, Kilowog, why don't you like know who this guy is a little bit,
Like
But
they,
I
they
was like,
like they didn't do notice. They didn't put out no description about
yeah,
the
there was
man
no
that killed
like,
Tomar Ray. Like I don't
you
know. That
know,
that seemed a little hard. That seemed again a little hard to believe for the
you
Green
know,
Lantern Corps.
I mean, maybe because he scanned him and it said Daxamite, maybe I don't know,
Yeah, it could.
uh,
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That could have thrown him off.
but yeah, I don't know. I thought that was kind of sus. And like you said, even the other scene, I was expecting somebody to maybe be like kind of bump her, maybe give her a little elbow bump, be
Right.
like, hey, don't say anything yet, like don't
Yeah. We don't know who
just
we can trust.
don't
Right.
just give our location on a comm. I don't care who these people are,
Right.
you know. Just say, hey, we'll meet you at such and such place, and then go meet them. you know.
Yeah, and then take them. Yeah, then say, all right, now
Yeah,
let's
and
go up, squad up, and then don't
yeah,
don't don't say we'll meet you at the place where we're taking out we're bringing out all the Kryptonians. That
yeah, you know that
yeah
so that just wasn't very smart. That was very kind of like very comic booky, like Justice
yeah
League, kind of like Super Friends,
yeah. I was
whatever.
almost thinking like almost like Scooby Doo, like where it's like, no
Yeah,
fool, don't do that. Like
yeah, that was very that was very easy. Another thing I was wondering was every now and then I kind of wonder that I have to remind myself. I'm like, what is Malifaux getting out of all of this again? Because he's doing a lot of work. I feel like sometimes I feel like he's doing most of the legwork.
that's a good point actually.
For
It's
for
good.
his crew.
Yeah, and well, yeah. I mean, shoot, like Mantis did a lot on in New
Yeah,
Genesis, and yeah, Ma Alafa'ak is the absolute. He's the MVP of this part of the mission for
yeah,
Lorzad, 100%. I mean, he convinces Phantom Girl to give them up, and then he's the one that's able to actually take out Danny. So, yeah, that's a good question. I think I still believe his role in this is purely the whole Martian aspect. I still think he's on, which is kind of wild. That's where this stands. But I'm pretty sure he's still just on the. He is working for Darkseid because Darkseid is helping him
right.
with all the stuff that's happening on Mars.
Yeah,
His mission to
yeah, you're
get
right.
rid of the Greens and all that stuff, and get rid of the caste system. Like,
Right,
remember,
yeah,
he got the weapon from
yes.
Apocalypse from
From
Decide.
Apocalypse, right,
So
yeah.
like
He's
I
working
yeah,
for
so I think
Darkseid.
that like he's indebted to him essentially,
Yeah,
which is why like
yeah.
oftentimes when like earlier the early episodes, but he would when Ma Alpha would challenge Lord Zod like, why are we doing this? Like, you gotta tell me something. Lord Zod, being the arrogant jerk he is, would be like, you can't tell me anything because you're beholden to Darkseid, and Darkseid told you to listen to me. So I think that
Right.
that is like his only real skin in the game at this point, is that as long he wants to continue to get the support he's getting from Apocalypse, and to do this he's been told to go on this mission with Lord Zod, who's doing this whole other thing that has
Yes.
nothing to do with him. But no, we see obviously he's going to be uh is going to cross section because McGann is right in the middle of all this as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I feel like they could um I mean, they don't have to beat us over the head with it.
Yeah,
But
no, I
I
feel
think
you.
the fact that it's coming out weekly, like sometimes you see him going really out of his way, like he does in this episode, to like really help them in their mission. And I'm kind of just like, wait, so why is he here again? I know why Lord Zod is very invested in this.
Right,
So I was like, Malafak. I was like, wait, so what is he? What is he? It's like,
right, yeah.
so you just forget, honestly. It's probably it probably flows a lot better if you binge it, probably.
I totally
Um,
agree with you on that.
but yeah, I'll just have to wonder about it. Wait.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I didn't really think about that because I just been along for the ride with this has just been the duo. They were a trio before Mantis got locked up.
Right.
I've just been along for the ride with this duo slash trio, and yeah, it's a good point. Like his motivations don't really get talked about too much. Again, there's that scene when they form the trio in Apocalypse, and that's like the last we hear about Ma Alafak and why he's a part of all of this. But as you said, and I said, he is the real MVP of this mission, and you kind of get, like I said, kind of a worst case scenario. So the team is beat down in the Phantom Zone, and now Ma Alafak is able to attack Danny, which then turns a Kaizer-Thrall onto the Justice League. So now they're all being attacked by the Kaiser-Thrall. And then Lord Zod sees the boom tube open and says, all right, we're not all going through here because we got to see what the hell's on this other side. But I'll come for y'all. We're going to take Irma, his wife. We'll take Connor. I forgot why he took Connor because I remember that was the other thing too. I was like, why would you take this guy? Again, like he's been so unreliable for the
Right.
past two episodes. But he takes Connor, and they say, we'll see y'all on the other side, I guess. And then we get the again the reunion that we've all kind of been dreading, but it does indeed happen. Lord Zod pulls up. Excuse me, Drew Zod pulls
True.
up, and he's reunited with his son. He doesn't seem to be he's very confused because if you think about this, Sham, and I don't think people realize this, or real fans and people following do realize it, but I kind of had to remind myself, this Zod does not know of Lord Zod.
Right.
Because this Zod is from a previous timeline before Irma has Lord Zod.
Right.
So this guy's like, Dad, he's like looking at you like, who is this dude?
Yeah.
And who's wearing my crest and everything. But this is him actually being introduced to his son for the very first time because he has actually never met his son. His son is born in the 31st century. And that was this whole story we talked about way back whenever we saw Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy explain the story to Bart, while of course Lord Zod explained the story to Ma'ala Fa'ak. So they're out of the Phantom Zone, which is bad news for everybody. Justice League is being attacked by the Kaizer-Thrall. The team is stuck in the Phantom Zone, though they say, well, we're gonna have to follow them through that boom tube, I guess, to figure out what's gonna happen. All things not good. This ends on a very bad note. This was a great episode, but a tough episode if you're rooting for our team. We talked about it. It seemed inevitable that Drew Zod was gonna be out and in these streets. That just seemed to have to happen. It's gonna be wild to kind of now have a DC universe that now has Zod out here unless he gets killed somehow. But that was how the episode ended. So, Sham, just kind of final thoughts on kind of how the episode kind of ended up capping off. And by the way, just like what I talked about last week,
yes,
when Connor comes through with the rest of the crew, he is immediately, he's very badly wounded and he's bleeding because he has these gashes that came, I think in part from the explosion, but I think also in part from the attacks he took in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
So he looks like he could die at any moment. And as you see there, McGann also in very bad shape because of the attack from the Kaizer-Thrall. 2 questions. Do you think Danny is dead? And how do you think this plays out? Because Danny seems to be the only way that's going to... He's the only thing that could help him at this point. But, I mean, he's going to get walked pretty quickly by Ma'ala Fa'ak.
No, I don't think he's dead.
Okay. I don't think so either. They made it look like he was killed, but I don't think he was. Yeah. Remember, he's very powerful. He can change. He can go through dimensions. So.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he's dead. I also think that'd be a little too dark. That's very dark. So I don't think he died like that.
Though they did just tell us his brain got cut out. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you gonna kill him.
Yeah.
Alpha just So I don't think he's dead. And he's useful. So I don't think they would like kill him.
Right.
So he's been working with them, kind of this whole time. So, and I think that, I'm sorry, what was your second question?
Oh, and kind of how does this now play out now that we are, we the at least the first Kryptonians are out, and it's the worst of them all. It's Irma and Drew Zod. Mm-hmm. They're teamed up with Lord Zod. Like, just kind of how do you feel about how the episode ended and kind of where we go from here?
Yeah, this was a crazy ending.
Yeah.
This was a crazy ending. Very good writing. Very, very, very well done. I'm wondering, I feel like, and I could be totally wrong, I don't know. I feel like Halo will be involved in this story. That's where I thought this was going to go.
When they talked about the mother box, I thought the exact same thing.
I was like, okay, so where's Halo at?
Right.
I was thinking that's why she showed up.
Right.
I started putting the pieces started coming together. I was like, oh, I see. So she's going to show up. And then they just brought, then what's his name? Orion walks through. I'm like, wow, they got Ryan. All right.
Yeah.
It's not like Halo hates y'all. It's like, why you got to go get Orion? But
well, I guess for them, they thought, this may be a lot for Halo. Like, not that she doesn't have the power, but
right,
this is just a lot for someone who's not as seasoned as Orion's he's a war dog. Like, that's literally his nickname. So if you going into a scrap, that's the guy you want on your team, regardless of what's happening. So as long as you got the power of the mother box, who cares? But I honestly I thought the same thing. I thought that's where they were gonna bring in Halo, but they went,
Yeah.
and
So
it did connect with the whole Justice League treaty that he mentioned when he said, this is part of our treaty, and I'm more than
yeah,
happy to
yeah,
help you guys with this. So,
yeah. That's a good point.
so
So I still think that she's going to be involved in some way. I feel like with the other team still being in the Phantom Zone, I feel like she's going to be involved, and just with us getting her um and Brienne in an episode, practically a whole episode. I feel like she's definitely going to be involved in this
that's a good point. Yeah.
somehow. I don't think they would just have that episode just to update us,
Hmm.
So I feel like she's going to be involved. Um, I don't know how exactly. Um, um, I feel like Maala Fa'ak needs to be. He needs to be. Um, he needs to be dispatched. Someone needs to take care of him.
Oh
You
yeah, I mean,
hand it somebody.
he is causing problems. It's almost like like if you're like a basketball team or a football team, and you're game planning, and like one guy is just like, he's got 200 yards on you, and you're like, yo,
Right.
we need to shut this guy down. Like he's just causing way too much havoc, like from the beginning, like from
Yeah.
episode one, like he has really made his presence felt in a negative way for our lovely heroes. And yeah, it's funny you jumped to him because I was thinking the same thing. Like, man, like they can't stop this guy. And
Yeah. So they have.
it was interesting that McGann couldn't feel, I'm sure it's just his powers are really strong, but McGann didn't feel him when he sunk up on them. Like I
Yep.
thought even that was kind of interesting because he had to. He was on the planet, like he was, but we saw he was in disguise. McGann, I guess, was so focused on, feeling Connor's touch that, even her brother, like, he didn't feel him come through.
Yeah. And I mean they're on a red sun, so I mean he's kind of the guy right now
Right? Yeah,
for
it's not Lord
for
Zod
for,
could
their,
do
for
anything.
that crew
Yeah.
for Lorzad and I guess now Kaiser-Thrall too. I guess as long as Kaiser-Thrall's under their control, so it's really just Maal Fa'at. So they kind of need someone to handle him, and I don't know who that someone is, but yeah, I guess we'll find out.
I actually wonder how long he'll be able to control the Kaiser-Thrall, only because he's not as strong as Danny, which I think may end up explaining how this whole thing gets straightened
Mm,
out and the good guys win here. Because you know, Danny is on a certain level. Again, he has intergalactic, interdimensional abilities. That's not Motherfucker is a very strong telepath, but I don't think he got that kind of smoke. So, I do wonder how long they'll be able to keep the Justice League under wraps. But I'm excited, man. Like this episode. This episode made me really excited for the future of Young Justice, which I know right now is still TBD because we don't have a season 5. But like, assuming the Zods don't die here, which I don't think they will, like like the idea this is like Superman's first introduction to like Zod, and remember like like now like Zod has a reason to hate this dude because like Connor told him he killed him, and remember the team was like, you didn't kill Superman, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, wait, the son of Kal-El is still alive. I'm like, well, like now like all of those stories like Superman had a whole lineage in this show, and we haven't even touched any of that stuff that involves Drew Zod. Like this is gonna be epic stuff for the future. I don't know if you're not gonna have obviously a Zod season in the future. You would think because we just got one, but it just the added mythos that this show continues to give us for all these kind of these legacy characters within the team. It's just really awesome, and that makes me really excited for the future.
yeah, me too. I mean this. I mean this. Um, I'm very excited for these next couple episodes and the next season. Hopefully there is a next season. But yeah, it's shaping up to be very good.
So let's do scores here, Sham. So I'll let you go first. What are you gonna give episode 24 of season 4 of Young Justice, Zenith and Abyss?
I'll give this a solid. I'll give this a 9 out of 10. I thought this was a very, very good episode. It felt like a comic book, which is really kind of the
Yeah.
pinnacle of what you want from these kinds of shows. It really felt like a comic book. It felt like a comic book. The stories coming together, the different kind of branching storylines, kind of merging. Callbacks that had things from the past, the different timelines kind of converging. It was very good. It was really, 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 really well done. Um, you know, all the different characters and a lot of payoff. If you watch the previous seasons, great, 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 great all around. I give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I love this episode as well. I'll go 8.5 out of 10. Um, really good episode. Action was good on the Phantom Zone. Smart. I think the way they wrote those action scenes was smart. You're not gonna have Kryptonians flying around and shooting heat vision, but they made those fights very personal, very in your face. When Connor is in Calder's face punching him, like you feel it, like because there's no powers here. It's the team kind of had some of their abilities, but it wasn't the same. They didn't have the same effect because they didn't have the experience of being on the Phantom Zone. So seeing those fights become so in your face, I thought it was very well drawn. I thought the way they presented them was strong, and then just again, not everything was perfect with how they kind of tied all the pieces together. Again, I thought maybe it was a little, again, Scooby Doo-ish, how Phantom Girl just told them everything they were gonna do, and then
Right.
Laura and my Alpha I just pulled up, but still, in terms of, again, villain coming off strong, both Zod, all three Zods, I guess, come off really strong. My Alpha continues to really live up to that name. When we saw that this was how they were going to introduce that character, a character that's not typically McGann's brother. It was like, all right, well, that guy's like a pure evil dude. Like, is that guy gonna live up to this name? And he continues to live up to that name. And this felt like, sometimes I think, like, this felt like the right moment for our team to really be like in mud. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think
Mhm.
I think a couple. I want to say it was probably the first half of the season. I think I mentioned like, is it, are we at a point? I know they had the terrible loss of Connor dying, but like, did we get to a point where the team was kind of just operating and being too successful in everything that they were doing? Like, we haven't seen them take a massive L really since Connor, and I think this is the right time for that. I think to do it maybe in the penultimate episode is like, all right, now they got to solve this whole thing and fix this all in one episode. That's only 22 minutes. A little unbelievable. Like, now, okay, they did it in 24, so now you have two whole episodes for the Justice League and the team to find a way to piece this back together. That seems like they'll give them enough time to breathe, which is why I think this episode is a little fast paced. Not too fast paced, but it probably was right on that border. But I liked it. I really did. Outside of the fact that, again, this is not really a kind of a Nightwing arc, and that some of the stuff I think came together a little too simply for the villains.
Mhm.
Otherwise, really stellar stuff, and continue to be extremely strong season. Please continue to urge HBO Max and DC and everyone that has a say to get us a season 5 so we can continue to watch this outstanding animation. Because shout out to the team, Brandon Vietti, Greg Weisman. Just, they've done a fantastic job. This has been a hell of a show to follow, and hopefully we'll get more content coming up in the future. But I think that's gonna do it for now. Thank you guys so much for checking out this edition of our Young Justice episodes recap and review. We'll be back with another review for next week's episode. But for now, I'm EJ for Shamari. Take it easy, guys. Peace.